Hey, I'm Grant, and welcome to the State of the Channel for February 5th. So, stuff coming out this week is still, I think Resident Evil is going to come out until the 12th of February. And after that, I finished up last week a series, I guess you call it a series. I played a game called 3/4 Home. I thought it was really kind of just neat and relevant, so played that. That's going to come out for 3 days whenever Resident Evil finishes. And I also put out a small video for OSRS on Friday. I know I go back and forth on the OSR stuff. I'd really like to make that something, so I'm trying to make plans to make that series come out every Friday. It's just I'm trying to find a good place for it in my week, because it's meant to not be something that's too hard to produce, but rather something I can just like write a script up over the week. I can quickly do audio recording, like, I don't know, while I'm cooking dinner or something, and then I just have to find some time to record some background footage. It's supposed to be very easy to put together. So I'd like to do that, but I know right now I suffer from the fact that it's pretty low on the totem pole. It's like podcast, the LP stuff, and I'd say website and all this stuff, and then way down here is the OSR stuff, and I feel like that's why it keeps getting pushed, is because it's like, well, I'd much rather get this live action podcast out than the one random little OSR video, but I'm trying to make plans. I think one of the main projects I'd like to do is just get a good day off. I still need to take PTO from work. I've been actually like just accruing it, and I need to start spending it, and I'd like to just get a good day like that, and I can just make a whole bunch of them, because that's what I think would solve my issue. Is the fact that I have to do it every week is tough, whereas there's no reason I can't just save it up and like, I'm gonna write 4 scripts today, okay? Next day I'm gonna record the audio for those scripts, okay? Just gather a bunch of footage. It doesn't have to be for anything, it just has to be something kind of relevant to throw in the background. It should be very easy, and I just need to sit down and get that going. Otherwise, podcast comes out this Friday. I already got it recorded. I'm just finishing up the editing right now, and it should be pretty good. One of the things, like, I actually enjoy having the podcast kind of done ahead of time, which is what's been nice about this. Like, this is actually recorded last month, because we recorded like 3 days after the last one, I think. And I've been enjoying that, but I definitely feel like one thing I want to avoid is I can't record too far in the future, because they only come out every 2 weeks, so twice a month. So even though maybe for some reason, let's say I have a ton of time off work and I could film 5 in a week, that would be nice from a logistics standpoint, but then I'm just torn, because all of a sudden we're talking about stuff in January when this comes out in March, and you can kind of feel that disconnect. But I am enjoying being on the other side of this. It's been really hectic for a while. Website still needs stuff going on. I'm still working on getting a test site running. I'm looking at a technology called Docker, which lets me theoretically deploy a site independently of the framework. And if I do that, not only will that take a lot more work, but it makes my site more stable and durable. But then also that lets me deploy a test site. And that's the big thing I'm trying to figure out, is it's a big step having all that stuff, because then that lets me just like toy around. So like I can just do whatever I want on the test site, and it's like, man, that broke it. Can't fix it. Okay, just press a button, revert it to what it was 30 minutes ago. That would be ridiculously effective. And that was what's going to really set me off on getting that started. Same with my other Java project I wanted to get doing. It's like, if I can start figuring out these kind of, not like framework, but just like environment to develop in, if I can get that, and that's a big step, then I can really start going with this. Otherwise, I think I'm going to continue streaming D&D on Sundays. Again, it's something I'm doing anyway, regardless of not I show it, but I've always wanted to have that recording, even if it's just for me, or even if it's just for the people playing, but I'd really like for that to be recorded somehow. And down the line, maybe it's not terrible. Like, I actually wouldn't mind editing it. It's just like, again, that would put it even lower than the OSR stuff, and I would just never get around to it. I'd like to, but it wouldn't happen. But what I think I'd like for it to be is, I'd like to say we play essentially every Sunday at 3, and I'd like to say, was it 12? I'd like to eventually get to the point where at least 1 hour ahead of then, I want to start the stream, and it would just be setting it up. So I would still do stuff outside that, but then I thought that could be a fun way where, like, I could like bounce my ideas off of like anyone who's watching. I'd say, well, this is what I kind of want to do. Because a lot of times I don't make stuff linearly. It's like I have these big tenets I like to hit, and then as I get closer to the session and I know kind of what they're doing, I'm like, well, then let me hammer down the specifics. And it's not actually usually until right before, say, an encounter that I actually know, like, say, the actual number of monsters. I just know, like, okay, I know they're gonna go to the cave. And then a day before, it's like, oh no, there's probably gonna be goblins in the cave. And then like an hour before, it's like, okay, there's probably 5 goblins that name this. And then it's not until like we actually start, then like, there's these 5 goblins, they're named this is their gimmick, this is what they do, this is why they're here. And I think that'd be kind of fun to sit down and do that with like a group ahead of time when my players aren't around. And I can kind of talk through and just bounce my ideas off because I think it'd be kind of fun. Plus, I know personally, like you can see a lot of, I'm hoping the thing I could bring to the table with that little thing series is, I feel like you see a lot of interesting D&D worlds from the perspective of a player, but I think it'd be kind of fun to have that from a DM's perspective. Like, just being like, I'm not going to spoil anything purposefully, but I'm also not going to hold back if someone pops up on the screen. And then it's going to be more about crafting that and running the game than it is going to be about uncovering the story as a player. And also what I'd like to turn that into is I really like to start making more of my own like content. Like that's how I used to play a lot of D&D, is I would just make stuff up. Whereas right now we're going through the Lost Mines of Phandelver, that module, which is like the starting module for 5e, 5th edition. But I'd like to get moving back to that, and I'd like, as I do that, to obviously have it to be more of a recorded story. So it's more of, we're doing this for a purpose. Like here's these characters and they're going through things and they're kind of like finding their way. That's more interesting, I think, and gives more value to what we're doing than just, oh, we're just playing D&D. And I don't know, I think that also brings out more stuff, even if it's more stressful. Like actually we used to record it and that turned into essentially what the podcast was. And while it's annoying to have to record the D&D, doing these hour-long sections and doing like very custom story, even if I'm not an amazing writer or anything, it gave it meaning. It was really kind of cool. So I want to keep doing that. Gonna be a pretty busy week. I just gotta find some good PTO and I can just hammer out a bunch of stuff and then I'll be good. But as always, you can contact me over on Twitter. It's at take4grantd, or on my email, it's grant@take4grantd.com, and I'll be back again next week.